JR, how did you find Carnivore?
Well, out of desperation for health, I do want to pause just for a second and tell you thank you for all your hard work on your YouTube channel. It is brilliant. I'm hoping my story will give hope and inspiration to others. I'm 63 years old, born in 1961, when the cover of Time magazine came out showing a frown with eggs and bacon, indicating that saturated fat was out and low fat was in. Within a few years, I was diagnosed with learning disabilities. Was it the low fat diet affecting my early development? At age 10, as I was painfully thin and nicknamed Twiggy, my grandmother was determined to put weight on me by feeding me ice cream every night for 30 nights. I did gain weight. My weight struggle began, and within 3 years, my mother put me on my first weight loss diet, one of many. I got my first autoimmune disease when I was 18, lichen sclerosis of the skin. I then developed severe fibromyalgia and many other autoimmune diseases over the years. I had a Kraft glucose tolerance test, which showed that I had hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, and indicated I would, in fact, become diabetic later in life. I asked, is there anything I can do? I asked the doctor, and he said, nope, it's chronic and progressive. About 20 years ago, I was told by my doctor, watch your sugar. I didn't really understand what that meant, but I continued to watch it go up and up and up, along with my weight on annual exams. I suffered for 10 years from Hashimoto's and Graves' disease, which are both autoimmune. Then 9 years ago, I opted for a total thyroidectomy. They found I had papillary thyroid cancer. 6 months after having my thyroid removed, I got another autoimmune disease called polymyalgia rheumatica. A lot of people refer to it as PMR, which required high-dose steroids. My blood sugar got up to 357 and my weight to 265 pounds. I asked my doctor about diet, and she said, oh no, we can't talk about that. Just take the medicine, get your lab work done, and come back and see me in 6 weeks. I felt so hopeless and helpless. I prayed to God for direction on what to do next. I did an internet search on how to correct diabetes naturally. I came upon a video by Dr. Sarah Hallberg saying to flip the food pyramid upside down, and that's where it all began. I started tracking my blood sugar before and after meals to see what foods and portions I responded best to. I found a ketogenic support group on Facebook and started using them as my tribe. I watched my blood sugars go down over the next 24 months from 357 to 83, and my weight from 265 to 135, both normal. My health had improved some, but I wasn't fully restored, and so I continued on my journey to eating carnivore. I have gained some weight back since going carnivore. It is not a weight loss plan, but a plan to regain health, so I will continue to do whatever it takes. I have to accept that I am on a journey, and this is a process. I am learning to listen to my body. I believe I would be dead if I hadn't found the ketogenic and carnivore way of eating. I am so grateful to be alive. I have been carnivore for 5 years. Keto before that. I even removed coffee for several years and did the lion diet. It was simple, but not easy. I also excluded eggs for 6 months as a test. I eat when hungry and stop when moderately full, usually 2 meals a day, sometimes 1, sometimes 3, but the average is 2, of meat and eggs. I just added coffee back 6 weeks ago, which helps one of my conditions called POTS. It stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. My heart rate goes high and my blood pressure goes low. I may replace the coffee with a caffeine pill. in the future to see how that works. I had functional medicine testing done last year, and they showed food allergies in all categories except meat and dairy. I do not consume dairy as I have eating disordered behavior when I do, like I am addicted. I cannot moderate any foods other than meat and eggs. I have an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind for many substances. I haven't smoked cigarettes in 28 years, and I haven't had a drink in 14 years. No matter what I was successful in quitting prior to carnivore, I always returned to using food and food like substances as my drug of choice. Here is a list of medical conditions I have and what the ketogenic and or carnivore diet has done for me. Lichen sclerosis, improved to the point that I no longer need medication. Lymphedema, 50% improved. I no longer weep lymphatic fluid from my legs. I still wear compression stockings. 9 years ago, I could barely walk to my mailbox. Now I can enjoy a nice, long nature walk. Cellulitis, no episodes in the last 9 years. Erythromelalgia, which means red, hot, burning feet, in remission. Rheumatic fever, stable, on penicillin. That's autoimmune. Sleep apnea, 50% improved. I still have central sleep apnea requiring BiPAP when I sleep. My pressures were reduced by 50%. Type 2 diabetes, reversed. I have a daily reprieve as long as I eat carnivore. Fatty liver disease, reversed. Precancerous pancreatic growth, stable. It even reduced in size on the last imaging study. 20 years ago, doctors wanted to remove my pancreas and my spleen. They told me it was just a matter of time before it would advance to cancer. That was 20 years ago. Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, thyroid cancer, still undetectable on blood work. Osteoporosis. Last DEXA scan showed improvement in 3 of 4 areas, taking no medications for osteoporosis, just carnivore. My doctor said, quote, "Wow, your scan shows improvement. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," end quote. Eyeglasses worn all my life, prescription reduced by 50%. Oral health, reduced plaque, no new cavities or sensitivity. I'm fair-skinned and freckled. I don't sunburn anymore. Plantar fasciitis, resolved. Barrett's esophagus and GERD, improved but not resolved, still requires medication. Asthma, resolved. I haven't needed to use my inhaler in 9 years. POTS, slightly improved, only after adding coffee back about 6 weeks ago. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, improved but not gone. Polymyalgia rheumatica. I don't know, as I now must continue to take steroids daily for adrenal insufficiency, which was caused from taking steroids daily to treat the polymyalgia rheumatica. One caused the other. Depression, resolved. I am no longer on an emotional roller coaster. Testing showed that my serotonin levels are excellent without antidepressants. I was on them continually for 12 years prior to adopting keto carnivore. I'm now able to feel and process my feelings like never before in my life. Grief has come to visit me a lot during the past 2 years since the death of my father, my husband, and most recently, my only 37-year-old son. I practice a spiritual program which helps me balance all areas of my life. I am now free from food obsession and have food freedom within my carnivore foods. This allows me to strive to be the best version of myself. I have my life back. I am at peace. I wish everyone could experience benefits like I've had from eating carnivore. Thank you for allowing me to tell my story.
Wow, JR, that's amazing. So much change. Um, I mean, I think the first thing that strikes me is so much has improved. You mentioned one doctor said, "Wow, keep doing what you're doing," but like have you had any doctors interested in, like, what are you doing? Why is it improving so much?
No, because it follow the money. They don't they don't want the solution. They want to add to the problem. I had one
Have you
doctor. I'm sorry. The one doctor that did that put me on the steroids. When I went back to her 6 weeks later and had adopted the ketogenic diet, I told her what I was doing, and she said, "Great." And I said, "I have a bone to pick with you." And she said, "What's that?" I said, "You wouldn't talk to me about my diet 6 weeks ago, and now you're telling me it's great that I'm going to be doing ketogenic." She said, "My hands are tied. I'm not allowed to talk to you about your diet."
Yeah, that says it all, right? Like, they've siloed everything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people that it works for when the medical industry is siloed like that, the people that work for are the people extracting the money from you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the feedback has just been like, "Wow." It's not so much like, "Tell me more about it," or no?
Well, the one doctor, he was convinced I had cancer or I was dying because people usually can't lose weight taking steroids daily. And I lost 130 pounds while taking steroids and being a type 2 diabetic, which really is amazing. You know, um, I've gained weight since I've gone carnivore, which is kind of interesting to me. And I don't know, I've had some adjustments in my thyroid medication that could be contributing. Yeah, there could be some other things going on that I did want to I wanted to explain that for me, carnivore wasn't a cure all, but it was an improve almost all. To either reverse it or improve it or at least stabilize it. I mean, for gosh sakes, I'm 9 years older than I was when I began, you know? And I really do believe that I wouldn't be here today. And I have a sister that agrees with me, and I have a best friend that agrees with me. And they say, yeah, if you'd have kept doing what you were doing and how you were eating and your lifestyle, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah. And so has anyone around you kind of said, "Well, I'm gonna try this. Maybe it's gonna help me"?
My son did, and he lost a lot of weight, but he was having heart palpitations, and he thought it was the diet. Well, come to find out, on autopsy 8 months ago, he had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So he had a congenital heart defect that was affecting him, and he blamed it on the diet, but it wasn't the diet. It was the congenital heart defect. So when he went off the diet, he gained all the weight back, and yeah, and he had open heart surgery. There was a nasty, nasty virus that came out years ago, and it attacked his heart and gave him a large aortic aneurysm. And they found that he had the congenital heart defect, and they replaced his aortic valve. They did the full sternotomy. He was only 36 years old. And a year later, he had a massive heart attack and died in his sleep.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. Um, so you mentioned that you typically you're eating, I think you said 2 mad?
Yes,
Yeah.
normally. Sometimes one. I may only eat one today because I had a really large meal. I knew I was meeting with you. It'll just
Right.
depend. If I'm hungry afterwards, I'll eat. I eat when I'm hungry and I don't when I'm not. That seems to work
Right.
best.
Okay. And so eating that kind of intuitive way, like the volume you're eating is also kind of intuitive. You just kind of eat until you're not hungry anymore, and then you're fine.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's mainly kind of steak and eggs? Is that ground beef?
Mixture. I really like ribeye, but my pocketbook says not all the time. So I eat a lot of ground beef. I eat steak. I do eat eggs. I'm probably gonna go just lamb for a while and see what that does for me. Go off the eggs, go off the beef, and just do lamb for a while and see what that does. And I'm considering going off the coffee. I love the coffee. Um, and it is helping me in some ways, but it may be hurting me in others. I don't know. It's a journey, it's a process. I keep kind of tweaking this and tweaking that to see what works best.
I think one of the most amazing things about this way of eating is because you've kind of cut down the amount of foods that you're eating to just meat and eggs. Um, it allows you to take your power back and go, okay, well, stuff what the doctors stuff what the doctors say. I can test what works for my body. I can test what's going to make me feel better, right? Rather than
Absolutely.
relying on a doctor to say, oh, maybe this medication's okay. Taking it for 6 months and finding out it's actually making you feel worse.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
My doctor does ask me every year, well, how is your diet? And I say, it's very, very good. I'm eating nutrient dense. And they're like, but I'll say, well, currently I'm on an elimination diet. And I'll say, oh, but you're eating vegetables, aren't you? Well, not right now. Well, you're eating fruits, aren't you? Well, not right now. And then the next year I came back and I decided to use the term, I'm eating a modified Mediterranean diet. And man, that went over great. No questions. They wrote down modified. I took everything out except for the meat. I modified it. Anyway, it worked.
Keeps them happy.
Yeah.
Has anyone, have any of your doctors done your blood work and gone, oh, look at your cholesterol, though. I know you're feeling better, but look at these numbers.
Yes. But I have had high cholesterol for 43 years and I'm still here. I do not believe that a high LDL is going to kill me. It would have done it by now. My cholesterol is the same as it was when I was 20. What's the problem? Now, I did have really high cholesterol. After my mother died, I took care of her for 6 weeks under hospice, and she died. And the following week, well, like 3 days later, I went in for my blood work for my doctor, and I go in, and my cholesterol was 601. And I had never seen it so high. And I talked to a retired doctor of mine, and she said, that was the stress of the death of your mother. Repeat it in 3 months. And in 3 months, it was back down to its normal high of like 280 or 300, which I'm not worried. I'm not worried unless it's over 350. I'm really not. And my triglycerides are good. My HDL is good. They're like 1 to 1, like 65 and 64 or something like that. I mean, they're very good. So I'm not complaining, and I'm just going to keep doing what works for me. I feel better. I'm not 100% improved, but I'm still here. That is a miracle to still be here.
And, importantly, you're saying you're not 100% improved, but eating this way, nothing is going backwards, right?
Correct. Well, the POTS is a little tricky. I got something going on there, but it could be something else that would have happened anyway. It could, because my heart rate is doing funny things. It's going low and it's going high. And I haven't really gotten proper medical care for that. I keep asking, but I can't get it. Um, it's the healthcare system here is not great, and the nutrition is even worse. So, and I'm in the States. Yeah.
Okay. So, when you've talked to them about that, they're kind of they just give you feedback that there's nothing we can do, or
They said they can't. They said they can't do anything for me until I faint, until I pass out, and then they can give me a pacemaker. And they've been telling me that for 30 years. They've been telling me that for 30 years. This is a condition I've had, and I think age is making it worse, but I don't think the diet has anything to do with it becoming worse. I think it's one of these things. It's just my father needed a pacemaker. I'm going to need a pacemaker. And I asked him, I looked at my doctor and I said, Well, wait a minute, because don't they say that women present differently than men? I may present as sudden death. Why don't you guys put the pacemaker in if that's really what I need? But guidelines say, oh, we can't do that until she faints. But I will say the caffeine has changed things. Now I'm not as likely to faint. When I don't feel good, I have to sit down. I used to be in the shower and I could feel that I was going to faint. I'd have to get out of the shower and lay on the floor to not faint. I don't have to do that now. And it's only since I brought the coffee back about 6 weeks ago. So it's so interesting to me that that's somehow stimulating the autonomic nervous system well enough for me to. That's why I don't think diet is 100% cure, but I think it affects me 80%. And I'm trying to tweak the rest of the 20% to get optimal health because that's what I'm going for is optimal health.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. And it's good to hear that caffeine's having a positive effect. Like often you hear people wanting to give up caffeine because of different reasons. But yeah, it's good to hear it's having a positive effect.
Well, I
Um,
had given it up. I hadn't had it for 2 years and my POTS was getting worse and worse and worse. And I thought, well, let me just try this. And it was a positive effect. And I thought, wow. So
yeah. Um, so you've you've had such good results doing this over a number of years. So you're very familiar with um this way of eating and what happens if you add things in or take things away and that kind of thing. So if one of your friends said to you, look, I want to get started with carnivore, I've got some weight to lose, and I want to get my type 2 diabetes under control or whatever it happens to be, how would you advise them to get started?
cut out the carbs. Just if they eat 3 meals a day, standard American diet, change one to low carb. Do that for a couple days. Change the second meal, lunch, to low carb. Do that for a couple days or a week. And then finally go to every other day. You're having one maybe dinner with some carbs every other day. Do that for several days and then move into keto and then move into carnivore.
That's nice. I like the that's a very clear step down approach that someone can follow. That's
Mhm.
really nice. And I think that it can be helpful for a lot of people because often, because we've had diet plans and exercise programs and whatever all our lives, right? So when you tell someone, okay, well, here is the plan you need to follow, that can be very helpful for people.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so JR, is there a way that people can reach out to you? Do you have any way of getting in contact?
You've got my email address, and I'd be glad to communicate with people over email.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, JR, and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you and all you've done. It's brilliant.